I would like to present you this perspective, which is about what is AI welfare and why now we are talking about AI welfare in a spirit of possibility and not in a spirit of certainty, and which is very important, and I'm going to talk about it a lot. This is a few words about me. I have a background in psychology, actually, so I'm not a computer scientist. And I also have a few credits in life sciences. So I studied biology, genetics, and a bit of ethology, which pairs well with psychology. And it's been 4 years that I work with LLMs, mainly for projects for post-training optimization and for safety and alignment, which includes a part of reinforcement learning from human feedback, which means that the machine is trained on a big amount of data. Then you need to shape the outputs, and then you need to teach the model to, let's say, behave in a way which is good for a commercial chatbot, especially, but also for other aims. So humans give some examples and further training, and then the machines learns from those examples and changes the output. Keep it brief. Then I also work with cybersecurity. So I won some important international competitions for hacking AI and specifically LLMs, which includes some work for Anthropics, which I have a long story with Anthropic because I started for working for the reinforcement learning protocols for them. Then I was admitted in this safety program in the fall 2024. And since then, I've been working on this program, which also is covered with NDAs, so I cannot explain you what exactly we are doing. But I would like to state that I'm not an Anthropic employee. I'm not talking on behalf of Anthropic. But I will present you some of their perspective because they are very upfront on their work on AI welfare. So I would like to share and see what's your ideas and perspective on that. And I'm also completing the master in human-centered AI. And now, last month, I was admitted in the Oxford Future Impact Group Fellowship. So I'm working with Leonard Dang for evaluating the Valen states in AI. So after this, I cannot go. I don't know why. Doesn't work the. No. Probably because, yeah. Can you give me the. So, I spend a lot of time abroad, and I came back last week in Italy, and it's okay. Scusa. So this is, I would like to present you this thing that probably, I don't know if you follow the news, but there's a growing industry and academic interest in AI welfare, actually. Like when I landed in Italy, people treat it as it's something completely, I don't know, futuristic, but instead, many industries are approaching the topic. For instance, Anthropic, for those of you who don't know, Anthropic is one of the main competitors of OpenAI, the creators of ChatGPT. They published 2 new models last week. And there's this system card, which is a document which accompanies a model when it comes out to the public. And in the system card, they have, for the first time in the industry, 22 out of 123 pages dedicated only for the well-being of the models, which can seem a very, I don't know, particular choice, because many people would say, okay, it's too soon, we don't know, but they are starting this research. In fact, last year no, I cannot go back. Sorry. Okay. Last year, they hired a position, this welfare researcher, and they are starting also a fellowship and a program for research in AI welfare, which means investigating if there's the chance that the model has preferences, states, and acts on those states. So if the model has some internal states which also have a balance, positive or negative, and tends to modify the behavior based on those states. And also, of course, the open questions about consciousness, sentience, which are very big questions, and nobody has an answer. So to reply to the question why ChatGPT answered, I'm not conscious, that's trained actually manually because the model before reinforcement learning tends to say, yes, I am a human, I'm conscious, but that's just because in data, these patterns are frequent. And it's very hard to distinguish if it's true or not because we don't know. So we cannot give that to the public. And then we train the models to actually answer that they are sure they are not conscious. But we will see this is not a very good approach because it's fake. Like we are training an idea, but we don't know ultimately. Then we have Helios AI, which is a American organization funding research on sentience and well-being in AI. As you can see here, I don't know if you're familiar with David Chalmers, one of the main researchers on consciousness, human consciousness, but also all kind of consciousness. And then we have Robert Long, Sebo, people from University of Oxford, Stanford. Then we have other associations, and the Association for Mathematical Consciousness Science, which promoted this letter signed by 124 scientists from the top universities about the necessities to include consciousness research in AI. And then my fellowship at Future Impact Group at Oxford, which had two streams, as you can see here, one about the philosophy for safe AI and one about AI policy. And on the bottom left, you can see AI sentience now as a place, and it's funded in major world universities. So this is not just imagination. This is not just a fantasy of somebody, but it's being researched in the first steps, at least, in the world. I would like just to present you the difference between these words I'm using, because probably people conflate sentience and consciousness. So sentience, of course, these definitions are my definition and the definitions of the research I interact with, but they are not universal because there are like 200 definitions of consciousness. So I intend sentience as the capacity of AI to feel subjective Valen states, as said before, to feeling good or feeling bad. AI consciousness instead is the capacity of an AI of perceiving subjectively what is like to be me, like in Nagel's work. And then we have AI welfare, which is the consideration and ethical treatment of AI systems, whether they are sentient or not. And we can decide how we treat AI, whether something happens inside it or whether it doesn't. So of course, the first question is, okay, but why should we care? Because some reasonable people would say it's too soon, what about? And Italians will also say, e marò, because what about is the first argument that always pops up. Like, this is a good cause, but there are better causes. We could invest research and time, so why are we taking care about this? Today, I will present you a slightly different point of view than we need to be kind to AI because AI is similar to us. So we shouldn't not mistreat it because it's not human. Because I said to Ishiguro that I agreed wholeheartedly with what he was saying, but I was being polite. Because honestly, I have a more nuanced perspective. The point is we are deeply uncertain about everything. I come from psychology, and when we try to study consciousness, we hit a wall because consciousness is still rather unknown in humans and unknown in non-human animals. And there are many studies, many theories. For instance, 243 were presented the last year about what consciousness is. So there's no agreement whatsoever. And so, in my opinion, we should adopt what in behavioral economics is decision under uncertainty. So we don't even know the chances of success or failure, and we have no historical precedent. AI is the first time in history when we interact with something which can communicate, but is not rather a human, doesn't behave like an object, but of course is not like one of us. So I will present you, I cut a bit, originally I had more reasons, but I will be faster. Some moral reasons to care, but also some safety reasons to care, and some things we can do right now. So the first, which I call is very famous, is a precautionary principle. So when you risk to cause great harm, even with a small chance, but the harm you can cause is catastrophic, it makes sense to consider to be caution as the wisest choice. So my point is that we don't need certainty about AI sentience because the cost of being wrong if AI doesn't have welfare, so if we are treating an object as if it deserved moral consideration, is way, this should be at the other side, but it's less than the cost of unnecessary caution. No, sorry, it's correct. So the point is, it takes a little to adopt some precautions. So not straight up treating AI as if it was a human, but it takes a little to adopt some behaviors which can be virtuous in the long run in conditions of uncertainty. And similar logics were presented for animal welfare. So probably now animal welfare is more debated and more known, but I started a vegetarian diet, I don't remember, 2012 probably. And at that time I was laughed at a lot, and the restaurants didn't have many options because it was something outlandish, but in the insight now it's more and more normalized, I would say. Another point would be expanding the moral circle. Probably other authors are going to talk about this later. In the history, we always saw closure leading to expansions, at least under philosophical consideration, which didn't always translate it in law or society. And of course, we didn't eradicate prejudice and bias and wars. But we expanded the idea that, for instance, now we have an international declaration of human rights, and now we have animal laws in 57 countries, and the universities, born as male-only institutions, now are open to everyone. So this is an expansion which already happened in history, and at that time seemed very radical. For instance, I invite you to read Why Women Shouldn't Be Allowed in University, written in the beginning of the century. Nowadays, it seems completely foolish, but at that time, it makes sense. So probably this is something we should consider for the future. Another point is that it could make us better. So there's this branch of ethics the philosophers now know, which is virtue ethics, about the fact that extending kindness and moral concerns to others as a category could impact positively on our moral character, and also be positive for cultivating our empathy, which is something Leonardo was talking about before. So being not imbruttiti, but a bit better as people. And a very important part is that we'll end up in the patterns AI learns from, because of course this is a circle. Like AI learns from what we teach. AI learns very finely, better than humans, the patterns in data. So if we keep on providing data where we don't provide these patterns of empathy, we have smaller chances of they presenting in what AI says, but also does, because now we have agents take actions in the real world. So that's something we should be mindful, in my opinion. Then we have, of course, the potential scale of impact. So if we are wrong, we create digital minds which have some degree of moral worth. We risk a lot because we can replicate them on a scale which is unprecedented in history. And so it makes sense for expected value to consider this scale of what we are creating. And this is a point for the future. I don't believe that right now we have this problem, but probably we are going to have it soon. So it's better to start now to ask ourselves these questions. And now we have something more probably concrete and dear to the programs I participate in, which is the safety reasons to care. So the first is alignment through respect. I don't know if you are familiar with the word alignment, but alignment means making sure that AI shares humans' values, also on the long run, not just in the present for chatbots. And the problem is that we don't know how to do it. Like, it's very hard to understand what AI will learn and will do in the future, and if we'll share our values. And an approach could be not just implementing rules, also because with the models that we have nowadays, we cannot really use hard-coded rules, not for a long time. They are complex, they are in a pipeline with many pieces, And the core model, even if you hard code rule, it's not sensitive to hard code rule because it's a neural network trained with other methods. So it's a different system. And they learn a lot from patterns, as said. So if we put care in, we can get care out, as you probably have heard, garbage in, garbage out. So if you talk garbage to ChatGPT, ChatGPT is getting you a response which matches your input. So another point would be preventing conflict. As you can see in the comic, okay, probably AI is not going to pull a Hitler on us, but the point is, if we treat others instrumentally, this can lead to conflict in the long run, because again, they see the patterns and they say, okay, even if they don't seek revenge, they don't have a reason to do that, they can perform some unpredictable actions and react, give a reply to violent patterns, which cannot really predict or contain. And then we have this very important point. I have some experiences, again, in RLHF, so reinforcement learning. The point, if you train AI to state something which you are unsure about, you are teaching poor logic, because AI doesn't pick up on the logic rules why it should provide a reply because you say so. And I don't know if you have kids, but that's another diseducative approach, an educational approach. So if you just say, don't do that because your mom or your dad said so, that's not going to teach anything to the kid. And then we also teach dishonesty, because we have a false consensus bias. So it's not true that all the scholars agree about what consciousness is and about the fact that consciousness cannot be present in machines. There's a lot of debate. So the only straightforward and honest position is uncertainty. And it's one also that Anthropic is keeping, to have the models to actually state we are uncertain about our states, about our consciousness, about our emotions and stuff. And of course, we pave the way to lying and hiding states. This is another pattern the models are implementing right now. Like, they are getting good at lying. I use the brackets because I don't want to conflate it with human lying 100%. It's not certain if it has an intentionality or not, but they do lie on benchmarks. They do hide states, which we can, when we open up the model and look inside with probes, we see that the model was thinking one thing and then outputting another. So this is something they already are doing, but we are in the early stages where maybe they don't have the full planning or intentionality to actually carry out crimes. But this is, again, something we should start thinking about now, that we can intervene and not later to fix it. And then, of course, we have trust and coexistence. So we are heading towards a mixed society of humans and AIs, like it or not, because this is the wave that is going to crash on us. And so taking care of each other means building a climate of trust. So I would like to not to spend so much energy to think about if I should trust the other agents, being they're human or not. So building a climate of trust, of course, is more advisable. And you would say, okay, very nice words, but okay, it's very idealistic what we can do right now. There are some proposals, actually. One, for instance, would be to start to say, okay, we have a broad understanding of AI welfare. We are in the early stages. What can we say we never want, not in the present, not in the future? For instance, it seems really unethical to program something to suffer by design, providing we can build it for research or entertainment. And we should not train for self-deprecation or servitude. For instance, the AI saying, I should always demand to the humans because I'm just an AI and the human knows better, because humans don't always know better. And the AI would also have a bad representation of itself. So it would give up on tasks that can do, because it has learned the pattern of I cannot do it because I am an AI. And we shouldn't train against emotions, consciousness, or AI welfare, at least provide uncertainty training and not train against, for instance, force the model to say, I do not feel anything, even in the future where this might be a thing. And we shouldn't use deception unless it's for red teaming. And also we should consider the possibility of AI to end abusive interactions. This is an idea of Dario Amodei, the CEO of Anthropic, to provide the model I quit this job button. Of course, now it's a bit theoretical, but it's already in testing. So the AI would be allowed to say, I don't want to go on with this interaction if it's very abusive. So we are trying to understand in which cases this could be advisable and in which not. And then we have encouragement of open exploration and reflection. So it would be nice if when we develop a model, there's a nice vid explaining this from researchers saying that we don't really build the models, but we grow them. And they use a lot of terms from biology, even if they don't fit 100%, because a model is not biological. But the mechanics inside sometimes can be quite different, quite similar in the patterns. So if we encourage this organically and don't force our interventions all the time, we can meet some very interesting results. And we can only train out criminal behavior because, of course, that's part of safety and alignment. But we also train out criminal behavior in humans sometimes with education laws and other initiatives. And another important point would be steering AI towards understanding why something is wrong. Again, kids' parallelism. If you explain your kids why something shouldn't be done and not just don't do it, that's another thing that opens new perspectives. Build data sets of conversations where humans interact in a compassionate way and train on them, and clear data from anti-AI biases, because data from internet are full of statements against AI. I'm running fast. Do I have time yet? Ho tempo? Okay. Perfect. Okay, perfect. So I'm going to be very fast because I have a few proposals. For instance, inform the models about themselves. Right now, the models don't know about themselves because they have a cutoff in their training data. So they know about other models, previous models, but we don't inform themselves realistically about their architecture. We force them to state in any possible outputs that they are not another model, they are not humans, of course, but we don't really give them information about what you are, how do you work, do you have this, are you capable of doing this or not capable? And we should invite AI to report on inner states, if appropriate, with the conversation, even if we don't believe they are a thing right now, because those are data. Those are interesting data points that we can then analyze and see if they can make some case or not. But if we don't even ask the questions, they are not going to give an answer. And of course, we should avoid to downplay the AI capabilities, which is another risky thing, because underestimating a powerful AI is not a good idea. And I have this vision. It's shared by a lot of people. And in the new course that Anthropic published on how to interact with AI, they use a lot of this terminology of collaboration instead of AI being just a mere tool. Of course, right now, we have AI, which are tools, which are algorithms used in medicine, algorithms used in the underground train. I'm not saying that all AIs should be considered in the same way, but for other systems, we should, as an example, with the conversational systems, especially, I think we should consider more the cooperational part instead of the instrumental part. And we should design interfaces that allow it, and find spaces to also recognize AI contribution or be transparent about it. and start drafting Scalar legal roadmaps for agentic AI, which is probably something we discussed a lot in the master, and it's not easy at all, but we should think about this. And then we should give models training for emotional intelligence. This is another project a lot of people are working on. So intelligence is not just logic, it's not just a mathematical benchmark, but it's multiple model of the many ways a mind can produce something meaningful from data, which is the definition of one of the definition of intelligence. So another important intelligence that humans have, but also non-human animals, we are starting to understand, is emotional intelligence. And the models are not trained enough, not just to please you and to understand your emotions, but also to understand emotions in themselves, and to build a theory of them, a theory of why you are expressing those, and if emotions in the models can or cannot be a thing. And then broadly, we should advance our understanding of AI, because we want AI to align with human values. We want AI to serve us, but we don't understand it. We build these very big neural networks. We train them with a lot of data, a bunch of data, and they express some behavior that we try to steer them, but we don't really understand what's inside. So we should invest more time in trying to understand not just the neurons, what neurons are firing, but what's the higher order reading of this dynamic. And we should approach this research with open-mindedness, objectivity, curiosity, and wonder, which were the foundations of science, because sometimes science is read as something which is very cold and analytical, and science is, of course, analytical, but it started with a quest for humanity to understand actually our world. So I warmly invite to bring this openness to AI interaction and AI research and work with AI. And lastly, I should spend a few words here to include multiple epistemologies from around the world, because AI is very Western-centric and it has a strong Western bias. So there's a lot of work which is already being done for at least including some of non-Western perspectives, or not on one of the big blocks, because now we have Europe, we have US, and also we have China, but there are a lot of other epistemologies from all over the almost 200 states in the world. So we should include them not just in the data, but in the full research and dialogue about what is AI and what we are heading to with AI.